a temporary love.
Welcome, everybody. Happy Saturday. I'm Craig Reeves, and this is the Studio Chatter Podcast. Have an amazing guest for you guys today, none other than the incredibly talented producer, singer-songwriter, and DJ Dear Evergreen. Her latest EP, Temporary, is one that has been a staple of my personal playlist since it was released. She also did a super cool cover of Vanessa Carlton's 1,000 Miles. That's an absolute banger. You guys really are going to like that one. She also features on a new single by Ranger Trucko, which was released under Night Bass, called I Think I Like It. Really cool song. Dear Evergreen also has a very successful Twitch channel you guys need to check out. In fact, she's coming off the heels of an amazing week for her where she got to star in a project called Twitch Made My Music Video, where Twitch would create a music video to one of her hit singles called Restart, and they would do it live on the stream. I was so excited when it ended up on the front page and thousands watched. Gonna talk to her about that too. She is also a graduate of Icon Collective, a well-known music production college in Los Angeles that I have a lot of respect for. We also talk about the controversial aspects of collabs and social climbing in the music industry and so much more. Before I get to the interview though, guys, I'm going to say this. If y'all are listening to this on YouTube, y'all please hit that like and subscribe button. We got to get the algorithm up. That's going to help this show tremendously. And as this show grows, that becomes an outlet for a lot of y'all out here to come on this show and promote y'all's projects. So let's try to grow this thing together, all right? So without further ado, here's my discussion with Dear Evergreen. Dear Evergreen, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for doing this. So one of the reasons that a lot of people are fascinated by you, one of the reasons I'm fascinated by you is because you are really, really good at a lot of things. You are very multi-talented. You are an incredible producer. You have a great singing voice. You have amazing stage presence. You have charisma that can just ooze out of everything you do. You're very smart. Like every time I will say, hey, Makayla, listen to this song that I've got, your feedback always makes the song better. You are an amazing DJ. Like I remember watching one of your DJ sets on YouTube, and I was just blown away. I mean, it was so good. And I mean, do you suck at anything, Makayla?
Wow. Wow, that is very, very sweet of you. Do I suck at anything? Of course
you
I do.
You are really good at a lot of things. You really are.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of things that I do like work very hard at, but there's definitely quite a bit that, I don't know, like cooking. I wouldn't say that I'm great at cooking. I do tend to, I think it's because there's a lack of patience. Like I consistently undercook potatoes. I don't know.
Dude, I overcook everything.
Oh, okay.
Like that's my problem. I just overcook everything. It's kind of like the only thing that I'm good at cooking is breakfast stuff. Like I'm good at omelets. I'm good at scrambling eggs.
Okay.
I'm good at that.
Yeah.
I'm good at I'm terrible with fried chicken. I always over fry it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm okay at baking, believe it or not. I'm all right at baking. I'm okay. I'm all right at that. But yeah, I'm not my cooking skills are awful. There are a few things I can cook, but I'm not a genius at it. So you recently did the Twitch Made My Music video.
Yes.
And I got to watch it. I thought it was so cool. It looked like you were having the time of your life. It just looked like you were having a blast.
I was.
I'm going to explain to people what that is. So basically, it is where you would film a music video to one of your singles, and the video would be edited and everything all in the course of one stream, and we'd all get to view the results. So that was just, I never thought of that concept on Twitch, but it really worked out, didn't it?
Yeah, no, I was so excited about that project. When they reached out to me, I was reading through the PDF and I was just like, man, this is going to be really, really neat. To me, it's very innovative. It pulls a lot of the best parts of Twitch together, which is like the chat interaction, showing off not only my artistry, but Simi's ability. Simi was the video editor, his ability to, edit something together. And then, just the overall creativity and kind of vibe of Twitch itself, which, I feel like was represented in the visuals. And like, it was just very fun. It was, I don't know. It was just a really, really amazing experience. I'm just so happy that they reached out to me.
So did they just email you and say, hey, we saw your Twitch stream, we enjoy it, and we thought you'd be good to do this?
That's exactly what happened.
That's incredible. It must have been like winning the lottery.
No, absolutely. When I read it, I was like, oh, someone's trolling me right now. And I looked at the email and it said like at Twitch, and I was like, oh, okay, like this is legit. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
The amount, it has been just a joy seeing your Twitch channel grow. I mean, Twitch was originally something that people did for video games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of musicians have started to take to Twitch. And I'm going to give you a story. Okay. One of the things that led me to doing a Twitch stream, because I do a Twitch stream too, and I'm gonna bring back my Twitch stream, guys. I'm taking a little bit of a break from it right now, but
it comes in waves.
One of the things that really led me to doing Twitch was you and Bad Snacks and some of the other folks like Oliver and people like that. I was like, you know what? I really think I can do this. And I want to do it. Just looked like y'all were having so much fun doing it. And it really is a cool experience. It really is. And one of the things I love about it is if I'm just helping one person to get better, because I offer feedback too, because you offer feedback on your stream and I offer feedback on mine. And one of the things that I really, really love about it is just helping people. Like if somebody has questions, or if I'm making a track or something, like if I'm doing something in production and somebody says, oh, how did you do that? I can explain it. And it's really a cool experience. What got you into wanting to go onto that platform? Was it just the pandemic and you couldn't perform, or? Yeah.
So essentially I had never even watched anything on Twitch prior to the pandemic. And I remember about a week in to the pandemic was when, I think in passing, someone was like, so you're going to start streaming on Twitch now? And I was like, oh, probably not. Like, that's definitely not for me. Like, I wouldn't be good at it. Like, there's just so much that comes with it. And then I got on and I kind of started watching some streamers, like some people, playing video games and whatnot. And I was like, okay, maybe this is something like I could test out. I guess I could do like a DJ set. And my first stream was a DJ set and I had so much fun. Like I felt like I was performing. And so then I was like, okay, wait, if I had fun with that, then maybe I'd have fun just like sitting there and just chatting, like talking with people and like producing. And I don't know, that's just kind of where it all started. Like I was like, I'm just going to dip my toes in. And then I just fell in love. So yeah, I don't know. It's definitely not for everyone, but I'm just grateful that it is like an outlet for me, and that, I don't know, like we've been able to cultivate such an amazing community on there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And speaking of that, I've been able to get to know a number of people who I consider friends of mine through your channel specifically, because for instance, Magda Helena, who's a good friend of us both.
Yeah. She's incredible.
I came to know her because you rated her channel.
Yeah.
And now Magda Helena is a very good friend of mine. She's definitely going to be a guest on this show as well. And I came to know Sage through your channel as well. And the funny thing about Sage was a guest on this show. And I actually came to know Sage because I was doing a stream myself at the same time that you were. And a number of the people in my chat they were like, oh, we're going to go to Dear Evergreen's channel and ask her to raid Craig's channel.
Yes.
Because at the time you didn't know that I was streaming.
No, I
okay?
had no idea.
No, you didn't know I was streaming at the time. And so by the time they all ended up going to your channel, you had already raided Sage.
Oh,
and so
okay.
I end up ending the channel like, okay, what happened? And I go to Dear Evergreen because I didn't refresh and it still showed you in the side thing. And so I go to Dear Evergreen. I see this random, beautiful woman. I'm like, who's this? Right. And so she's like, thanks for the raid, everybody. And I'm like, okay, who is this? And it says Copper Queen.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm just going to leave this channel. And she started playing her music. And I was like, oh, she is really good.
Yeah.
So I started following her. And the rest is history. So
Right.
it's really been a community where a lot of people ended up getting to know me from your channel because I would, be in your channel, I would be in your community and stuff.
Right.
And a lot of the people who now follow me on Twitch came to know me through your channel. And so it really has been a really great experience. And it's funny because the pandemic, I think, was the cause of it. As much as I hate saying that, was kind of there's kind of a positive. As bad as the pandemic was, there was a positive that came out of it, and I think that the fact that you and I are talking right now, that wouldn't have happened without Twitch.
Right.
No.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's crazy. So do you consider yourself as more of an artist who produces her own music or as a producer who happens to also do work as a singer-songwriter? Like, what is the game plan for you?
That's a really great question. I would consider myself an artist who produces her own music. I think in terms of a game plan right now, I'm moving kind of what I've been doing. I'm moving farther and farther away from the EDM community and moving closer and closer to, more of like an indie pop sort of realm. Recently I kind of did some soul searching and got back in touch with like my inner child, and all that I've ever wanted ever since I was really little is to sing and to be the front woman on a stage and, be able to connect with an audience and people on just a really amazing, what I would consider a spiritual level. And to me, being behind a DJ deck, while I'll always love DJing and I will continue to do DJ sets throughout my career, I don't think that's the most effective way for me to communicate the messages that I have through my music. To me, the best way for me to do that is to be completely free physically and then also like emotionally on stage. And the best way for me to do that is via my vocals. So, yeah.
You could do both.
No, absolutely. And I have, but I love also playing with other people. And so moving more into like an electronic band sort of situation. That's been something that I've been testing out recently, especially I had Enlo. He was the person playing percussion at the Twitch gig. And he also played with me at a show a couple weeks ago too. And that was just such a treat to have someone else's energy there on stage to just kind of riff with and like, I don't know. It just, to me, it takes the performance and the songs to just a whole nother level. So
definitely. Yeah. Playing live it's an amazing experience. I haven't done it in a while because I did music directing for years. And, I played keys for a number of different artists and stuff. And it's a really cool thing. The only thing that you got to get used to is the in-ears. Like that was something that took me a while to get used to.
Right.
So you mentioned DJing. Now, I honestly, I'm going to be completely honest with you. And I don't know if I'm going to offend you with what I'm about to say.
All right.
But a few years ago, I had no idea that DJing took so much skill. Okay. Because, you're really amazing at it. But there is a misconception about the skills that it takes to not only put together a set, but also in performing it. People have a tendency to think you're just playing random joints in succession, like it's just like a playlist and all that. But there's a lot of timing involved. There's a lot of intuition. There's a lot of reading a room,
Yeah.
working the decks themselves.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about the skills that it takes to do that, to be a DJ?
I think there's a few things. So whenever I'm talking to people about, how to DJ and how to DJ effectively, because in my humble opinion, anyone can technically DJ. You can pull up, you can put a USB in, and you can just hit the play button, right? And you can turn down the faders. Like, great, anyone can do that. But to DJ effectively, there's a few things that come into play, and you mentioned a couple of them. So one of them is knowing your music library like the back of your hand. So just knowing the songs that you're playing. I know people who definitely pull in tracks just because they're in pools or whatever, but like these need to be songs that you are actively listening to. You understand the structure of them. You understand how you feel when you listen to them. And so just, really knowing them inside and out. The next thing would be understanding the way that an audience is going to react to it. So for me, whenever I'm DJing, I try to like double, if not triple, the crowd's energy so that I can get a sense of where they're at, right? So like, if I'm like, dancing super hard, whatever, like, and I'm starting to feel tired, maybe we need a cool down soon, right? So then I'm going to think about, okay, cool, how can I kind of move this into maybe a verse section where people can like sing along and chill for a sec, or, maybe move this into some sort of a breakdown or whatever. So kind of like always thinking about that. And then, aside from that, it's just like practicing any other instrument. Like it just takes time and it just takes practice. And it does take practice knowing your library and knowing how different songs work with one another. Because I don't know, to me, transitions are a huge, huge, huge part of DJing. And it's really necessary to know, I don't know, because that's where the energy flows, It's just so important to understand how different songs are going to react with one another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and plus like working with the equipment too, because like if it's a lot of times when you're doing a set, you're in the dark. It's dark and you can't see very well, and
you gotta
it takes a lot of practice. It's something that you guys make look really easy. Yeah. So one of the things that I love about your productions is you are a really good engineer. Like a particularly good engineer. The way you mix vocals, I always talk about privately with Makayla how good her mixes are with her vocals. And I modeled a ton of my vocal production techniques after things that you've done. Like the stuff that you do with reverb in your productions with your vocals. It's so good. Like, do you pride yourself on your mixing? And is it something that you spent a lot of time working on? Because it really does sound like, especially considering how long you've been producing, because you're only 24 and you started, when did you start producing? Like what age?
I started producing when I was 18.
18. Well, so
a month before I turned 19.
Okay, so only
19.
about 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And your mixes sound like professional. They sound like a major record. Like it sounds like a major release. Is that something you spent a lot of time working on, particularly the mix?
The mixing process, I would actually say it's probably the shortest part of the process, because I think while I'm creating the track, I'm of course kind of like quote unquote mixing as I go, just so that it sounds good to me as I'm creating it. And then I always duplicate the session, and then I have a really specific mixing flow that I was taught by my original mentors a long, long time ago. And I kind of have based it off of that. Now it's I have supplemental techniques and whatnot that I use, but essentially it's just get your kick and your sub sounding good together. Make that sub, depending on the type of music that you're making, there's a certain volume level that you're going to want it to hit. And then from there, I just add in the other elements and make sure that I'm never exceeding that -6 mark of, headroom. Always leaving the 6 dB of headroom. So, and then it's just, it's balancing it out. And it's interesting. Ableton has a lot of amazing meters on it for being able to tell when like there's a moment where everything spikes, and then it's a matter of to me it's like a puzzle. It's like I'm going in and I'm like, okay, cool, if it spikes right there, then that means that a bunch of frequencies are probably clashing in a certain range, and then I go in with like an EQ and I'm like in a spectrum and I'm like looking at everything. So yeah, I don't know, I get pretty like surgical with it, but overall the mixing process I think is the shortest.
Yeah, the stuff that you're talking about is like black belt level stuff. Like when you're talking about like clashing frequencies and things, that is so important. I would say about 80% of the mixing process is just making sure all the elements of the mix fit somewhere, right, where you have your sub, like if you have an 808, then, right, you're not going to have the kick having a lot of bottom end, because the 808 and the bottom end of the kick is going to clash. That's stuff that a lot of people don't even think about. Right. And one of the things that if you guys really want a treat, you guys should go and listen to Dear Evergreen's cover of 1,000 Miles by Vanessa Carlton. Listen to the way the vocals sit in the mix, because there's a lot of stuff going on, but the vocals always come out so clear and they come out so up front, and the spatial use, like the use of panning and all of this stuff is stuff that people don't usually get down until they're like 10 years in. And so you definitely are very, very, very well versed when it comes to mixing. And I think anybody who listens to your music would know that. So every episode that we've done, I always love to ask, how did it all start for you? How did you get into music? Take me back to you're young, okay? Take me back to where it all started, okay? So it ain't gonna take long because you're only 24. So how did we go from a little girl growing chia pets in her backyard to Dear Evergreen? I don't know if you grew chia pets, but
actually my first chia pet that I grew, or that I attempted to grow and it didn't work, was for the 1,000 Miles video.
Oh, okay.
I always like saw the advertisements, but no, I never had a chia pet growing up. Gosh, always had a piano in the home. I think that was huge. I took piano lessons. I maybe took 5 of them in kindergarten, and then my mom pulled me from them because I hated them so much. But I would always still play the piano, and my dad always played the piano. And so I was always around it, and I was singing from a really, really young age. I was obsessed with Avril Lavigne and Britney Spears and wanting to become a pop star, JoJo, like all, Ashley Simpson, that whole world was mine. And JoJo
was one of the first artists that I really also became a fan of and wanted to go into production as well. So
wow, okay,
very interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, so I had all their CDs and whatnot, and going to the roller rink and getting to skate to different songs. And I became friends with the DJ there. Her name was Bree. She was 16. I looked up to her so much. I was like, that's so cool. She's got the best job in the world. And then I sang in choirs when I was younger. And then in high school, I was singing and playing keyboard in a jazz band and a rock band for the school. And I did musical theater. So I was just always super, super active with music. And then I was introduced to electronic, or I guess EDM, in my freshman year of high school. Someone played a Skrillex song. And at first I was making fun of it. For the first bit of it, I was like, this is ridiculous. And then by the second drop, I was dancing and I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard. And I started getting really into dubstep blogs, and I would find these I don't know. I remember there was one, it was I don't even remember what it was called, but it was a violin dubstep song. It wasn't Lindsey Sterling. I'm not sure who it was, but I'm just getting super, super hooked on finding these gems. And then when I learned about SoundCloud, then I could start collecting these things into playlists, and it was just so exciting. Started going to shows. And then it was, I was 18, and I was in school in Virginia. I'd only been there for a semester, and I came home or back to Oregon for a New Year's Eve show, and it was Paper Diamond and Milo and Otis. And I was standing in the crowd, and I was like, wow, I'm really working every single day to put myself in these crowds because I love this music. Like I'm living my life to be here. So how can I make it so that I'm here every single day? Like I want to be here every single day of my life. And that's when it clicked. I was like, I've never seen a woman DJ before. At that time, I hadn't. And I was like, it's just software. Like my dad was an IT guy for the University of Oregon. And so like I was always around software and whatnot growing up. So I was like, oh, it's just a computer program? Like I can figure that out. And so the next day I went and I got a GarageBand manual and I like learned GarageBand in and out, and I started making songs. The very first thing I made was a remix of Clocks by Coldplay. It's a pretty funny listen. But yeah. And then from there I took a 1 week electronic music summer camp, or like it was like base camp. And I learned about Ableton for the first time. And that's where I met my mentors back home. And what I would do is I would go over, I'd cook them dinner, or I'd bring them burritos, and they would teach me Ableton. And did that for a couple of years and started DJing. And I got a gig with a local radio station, which ironically enough was the one that I got banned from when I was little, because like they played all the hip hop and everything. Yeah. And I got a gig with them. They hooked me up with playing the Mad Decent Block Party back home. And I was, opening steadily for a lot of different artists in Eugene, Portland, Seattle, doing that, DJing and producing. And then 3 years in, my mom passed away, and I was like, okay, you know what? We got to stop living small. We got to if we're going to go for this, we're going to go for this. I've always wanted to live in Los Angeles. I want a community to fall into down there. And that's how Icon came into the picture, Icon Collective. It is a music college, and went through that program. And I've been down here ever since, been here for 3 years. And yeah, I don't know. There it is. There's the long-winded version.
No. I'm really glad that you told that story. It gives me so much perspective on a lot of things. Because number one, you started off just from being a huge fan. I mean, you had done music when in your formative years and everything, but you were just a fan of it so much that you just wanted to be a part of it.
Obsessed.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's really cool. And then, my father passed away in 2015. Now, I had been producing for many years, but when my dad died, it got me back into production. I was like, okay, it's a kick in the ass. I gotta, I gotta get started, because at that time I was kind of taking a break from production. I had a few years before that, I ended up getting signed to a major label, me and my twin brother both, because he does production too. He's the other half of VIP Sound Circle.
Oh, amazing.
And something really awful happened, and we both got dropped. And it really took a toll on me emotionally. Right. And I just quit doing music for years. I just got away from it. I just didn't want to be a part of it. But then my dad passed away, and he had been sick for a while. Okay. But something about that was like, okay, I really truly felt on my own, even though I was living on my own for years before that. But it was kind of like, I don't know, it was something that just was a kick in the ass for me too. So you mentioned Icon Collective. Icon is a great program. It really, truly is. And the people that come out of Icon are just so skilled, and people who I see come out of Icon, they have a great deal of ability. What led you to wanting to go there? Because it's a pretty big investment to go.
Basically, so I learned about Icon initially right when I first started producing, because I was watching, there's this pretty infamous Nightmare Q&A that's up on YouTube that just like a lot of, I feel like most Icon people, like a lot of people have just seen this Q&A. And, you know, he goes through a lot, and like, you know, it's interesting. And he talks about how he went to Icon. And so that was the first time that I ever like was like, oh, there is a school for this. And then, you know, like, I think it was like the next year I went to Hard Summer down here, and I saw someone who had an Icon snapback, and I was like, whoa, like that's an Icon, like, wow, like, oh man. Because at that point I was like, okay, like only like elites come out of there. Like, you know, it was a big deal. And then, yeah, essentially, yeah, after my mom passed, I mean, I think, you know, with most people, you know, when they lose someone who they really, really love, they, you know, you fall into a pretty steep depression, or just, you know, there's like a pretty significant pause that gets put on your life. And I describe it as no less than an epiphany when I was laying in bed about 5 months later, and I was really like stressed about everything. And, you know, I was stressed about kind of like the gift that she'd left me. And I had this voice say, if your mom was still alive and you had the check that she gave you, what would you do with it? I was like, well, if she was still alive, I could do anything. I could do anything at all. And you know what I'd probably do is I'd probably go to music production school, and I'd move down to Los Angeles. And that was one of the things that she also said before she passed. She was like, maybe you can finally move to California. Because she never wanted me to before that, because she was scared of me coming down here. And
of course, yeah.
The next morning I looked up Icon, I looked up the tuition, and it was the exact amount that she left me, off by $200.
And what a beautiful story. Well, I'll say this. I never met your mother, but I can already tell she was an amazing woman, because she raised a very, very cool and amazing daughter.
Thank you.
So definitely that is something that is going to be a legacy that she leaves behind.
Thank you.
One thing that I wish that I could have been able to attend was the Red Rocks Festival that you and our dear sister Bad Snacks remembered at this past spring.
Yes.
I saw your performance where you did Temporary. You did a remix. It was Bad Snacks who did a remix to Temporary. You performed it. Yeah. Your stage presence was so good. I mean, you looked like you had been performing for years, you know? How did it feel, you know, being up on that stage after what we've all been through with this pandemic? We haven't been able to go to shows or do anything. And, you know, Bad Snacks herself ended up getting COVID. What a way to make a return to live performances, you know, with your best friend at Red Rocks. What was that like for you?
Even just hearing you say it out loud, I'm like, I don't know. I just don't know how that happened.
Can't even describe it in words, huh?
I'm just like, yeah, I mean, every time I talk about that experience, there truly is not the words to express what that meant to me and how it really, truly felt. I will do my best to describe it, but genuinely, there's never been a time in my life where I've felt more connected to exactly where I'm supposed to be. And being able to share that experience and to be invited by someone who I respect, not only musically, but as my best friend, like it was just, it could not have been any better. And also after that whole year, you know, to me, it was just really, really affirming. And the entire time I was on that stage, I was just like, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like, this is, and
emotional experience, huh?
Super, super emotional. And
people don't realize that Red Rocks is a big deal. It's a big deal.
Absolutely.
Legendary venue.
Ever since I knew what it was, I was like, I'm going to play there. I'm going to play there.
Yeah.
I want to play there. Like,
and in case people are not aware, Bad Snacks is a friend of Makayla and I, and she is a very popular and very talented producer and multi-instrumentalist. She does electronic music. She does hip hop inspired music. Violin is her first instrument, but she plays a lot of others as well. She has a big following on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitch, so you guys follow Bad Snacks as well. She's definitely going to be a guest on this show. In fact, she was one of the first people I reached out to, and she was like, "Hey, man, let's do it."
Yes, oh, that's amazing.
So yeah, look out for that. That's coming soon. How did you guys meet? I'm very curious.
Yeah. Again, it's just crazy. It's just crazy how things happen sometimes. I was still in Oregon, and it was before I knew I was coming down here even. She DM'd me on Instagram and she said, "Hey, I would love to take DJ lessons from you sometime if we're ever, in the same city." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, I looked at her page and I was like, "This girl does not need DJ lessons." I was like, why is she hitting me up? Like, she does not need anything from me. And then I followed her and kept up with her. And the day after I moved down here, she was playing a show. And so I went to it. And we hung out that night, and then we got dinner about a week later. And then the rest was kind of history. We just really hit it off. And yeah, we've been buds ever since. I was actually just texting her right before we hopped on this call.
Nice. Yeah. Bad Snacks, somebody who's old like me, I'm 37. I've been around for a minute. You really kind of realize that people like Bad Snacks are rare. People like her, people as gracious as her are just rare. I mean, she's amazingly talented, but she's really genuinely a good person. Most of the time when people gain a following, especially as quickly as she did, they start to forget about the people who are not as big as them, people who, I guess, the quote little people, so to speak. But she's the opposite. I mean, the bigger she gets, the more successful she gets, the more notoriety she gets, the more she wants to bring the ladder back down for other people. The more she wants to pay it forward. People like her are rare. Most people are not like her. Most people, if they become successful like her, they feel like, oh, I got to start hanging out with higher profile people. I can't be seen with these little people or whatever. And so somebody like me who's been around the industry and who's been around a lot of, people who are as big a name as her and bigger too. They are not like her. Most, like 90% of them are not like her at all. A lot of celebrities, a lot of times they'll forget about the people they went to high school with. They won't talk to them anymore. Stuff like that. But she's not like that. She just has a good heart. She really does. And the reason that people bend over backwards for her, the reason why it seems like everybody wants to just do everything for her is because people don't realize just how much she does for other people. Behind the scenes, she doesn't talk about this ever. Like, she doesn't talk about all the stuff that she does for people. Like I know of some of the stuff that she does for other people. She doesn't talk about it, like stuff that she's done personally for me. Like, I was very sick this past spring, like very sick. And every now and then she would just, check in on me and say, "Craig, how you feeling? Is there anything I can do for you?" Just stuff like that. It's like, this is somebody who I've never actually met in person. And like, she just treats everybody like a friend. So that's really something that's really cool about her.
Definitely.
So I talked earlier about the single that you did that I've just fallen in love with. It was a cover of 1,000 Miles by Vanessa Carlton. What is the story behind that? Because I'm surprised that you're even old enough to remember that song. Because I remember when the song came out. Was that just you kind of messing around one day and like, this has some legs, this could work?
So it's actually funny. So I was writing with Ranger Trucco, who is a house music producer.
Phenomenal musician. Great. He's awesome.
He kills it. And we just gotten done. We were writing together. The song actually recently came out on Nightbase. It's called I Think I Like It. And we just had so much fun writing that night. Like, I I remember we were running around my apartment. Like I was like on the floor, like just like writing things in my notebook. Like we were just jamming, and it felt like so much fun. And right as he was leaving, he was like, I can't believe this is what I get to do for my job. Like, I can't believe I just get to have fun. And like, yeah. And then he took off. And that really sat with me because for so long I hadn't been having fun. Like I've been like, you know, going through, like processing emotions. Like I feel like a lot of my music is very like, oh, like I'm in my fields and I'm going to write about it. And like the production's got to match that. And like, it's moody and like, you know, whatever. And so the next day I heard 1,000 Miles. I was in my car and I'm like singing it. And I was like, oh. Was
it the first time you heard it?
No, it wasn't the first time I heard it. No,
oh, okay,
it was just I think it was like on like an Instagram clip or something. And I was like, oh,
okay.
Okay. Yeah. Like, I don't know. And then it got stuck in my head and I just started singing it. And I was like, oh, I can like kind of sing this song. I'm gonna go in the house. I'm just gonna sing this song. And then I was like, I wonder what would happen if I put like a drum and bass like drum pattern to this, like just for kicks. And right after that, I like sent it to a couple friends, and they were like, "This is something. This is like you should keep doing this." And yeah, I mean, I had it done within a week. Like it was super fast. It was super fun. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put this out. Like I had a vision for the whole thing. I was like, this is just totally gonna be a one-off. Like. And yeah, that's the story of that.
Yeah.
It was like
it always happens like that, doesn't it? Where you're just like, oh, I was just having fun one night and hey, you know what? This has some legs.
Yeah, totally.
You know? Like that happened with a cover that I recently did of Maddie J's CR78 because I did a cover of that song.
Amazing.
And the only reason why I even did it was because I was on a stream and I didn't have anything else to do. I was like, well, I don't have anything to do. Let's just do a cover.
Yeah,
and Maddie J just happened to be an artist that I just thought about, you know, just right there. And I thought, you know what, why not?
Yeah.
And so I did it on stream and then I showed it to Jessie, Bad Snacks. I showed it to Bad Snacks on her feedback. And she was like, oh my gosh. And she started showing it to everybody.
Yes.
And then, so now I'm forced. You
just simply had to put it out.
Because everybody was like, oh my gosh, Craig, this is so good. Release this. And so now I got to release it. So now I got to finish it. So I'm glad that happened. Yes, I love the music video you did to the song too. I love that. So, so how often do you get asked to do a collab? Because I'm pretty sure you get a lot of people asking, hey, let's collab.
Yeah, I get asked a lot. I get asked a lot, and it's honestly like every time that I get asked, I'm like, wow, that's like, it's just like very sweet. Like I do feel very honored, but I tend to have a challenging time. Like I have to I talk about creative trust a lot.
You're busy. That's a big part of it.
Busy. That's one thing. But the other thing is I love collaborating with people, but I need to fully creatively trust them. And to me, that means I need to know that whatever decision they choose to make, like I'm going to be okay with. And also they need to be a good communicator. So like, if those two boxes are not checked, I will not collaborate with them because like it needs to be an enjoyable experience or else the art will suffer. And like, I'm not in the business of having art suffer. So
yeah. For some reason, female producers get a lot of requests for collabs. Like it seems like you guys get so many people wanting to collab with y'all. Is it usually singing or is it production?
I'd say for me, it's mostly singing. I've had, which is cool. I think, it just all depends on the song. Like I have to resonate with it. Like that's at the end of the day. And also I am busy. And right now I am kind of in the process of writing a lot of songs for my album for next year. So I'm being very selective about what I work on outside of that.
I honestly get the feeling, and this is going to sound really cynical, but I get the feeling a lot of these people just like want to talk to a girl. Like a lot of these people, you know, because it seems like it's female producers that get it a lot because it's like a lot of these guys like just want to hang out with a girl. I think that's what it is. I mean, I hate to say that, but
I think I actually, no, not all the time. I think it really depends, because I actually think that just assuming that kind of degrades like art, you know, like if I'm just assuming that people are there for that, like I think for someone to actually fully go through with
I'm
the
not saying they
collaboration.
should be. I mean, I wouldn't be, but I'm not saying they should be. But it's kind of like, I remember Bad Snacks was talking about how there are literally people who asked to collab with her who've never even heard her music.
Okay, that's
like you'll have like
that's a thing. That's definitely a thing.
Yeah, I mean, you'll have people who do a style of music that is nothing like what she
Right.
does, and they're like, "Hey, let's collab." It's like, have you ever heard my music?
Yeah, right. No, I've definitely had people approach me who learn that I sing, and they'll be like, we need to work on something together. And I remember there was one guy in particular. He's like, you sing. I need a vocalist for my song. And I was like, have you ever heard my music? And he goes, no. And I was like, well, I've got a very particular style that I do. And, you know, next time you need to actually listen to an artist before you request to work with them. Because it's true. Like my voice, like you were majority of the time you're like, I'm pretty open to what I work on, as long as, again, I'm inspired by it. It feels good. It's something that I'm excited about. Like it could be a dubstep track. It could be a lo-fi track. Like I don't know. If I like it, I like it. But my voice, every voice is unique. It's like walking up to a drum kit, a saxophone, and an electric guitar and being like, oh, you make sound? Great. Can I like grab you for this project? It's like, no, like you need to think about which voice is actually going to suit your song and suit what you're going for. And also writing style too. Like everyone writes a little bit differently. So
yeah. I have a tendency, and I don't know why this is the case for me, but I very rarely ask to do collabs with people.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, I feel like if somebody wants to collab with me, they know where to find me. I don't think I'm unapproachable.
Right.
I think I'm pretty approachable.
I think so too.
Yeah, and people will thank you.
Yeah.
So people, you know, the people that I'm working with are the ones that came to me, you know. I'm working with Annie Elise, who's amazing. She's an amazing artist. I did an interview. She was the very first guest that I had. She came to me and she said, Craig, I'd love to work with you. And I'm like, of course I'd love to work with you. What, are you kidding me? And so in my opinion, now look, I'm not saying everybody should be like that, but I think there is this desire that people have to collaborate with folks because they think that being seen with them or being associated with them is going to get them ahead.
That's a very,
you know what I mean?
That's a very real thing. And I think that, the larger, I get it and I see it a lot. And it's like, it's definitely starting to, it happens to me here and there, but it's also tricky because you never know for sure that that's the motive. Some people make it more obvious than others. And I think that that's something that's really hard. I think that anyone is lying who says that they don't at least notice when someone is gaining traction or has a large audience. Like even me, I communicate with people and like, and that's the thing is whenever I speak with someone who has a larger quote unquote audience or following than me, I'm very cognizant of that. And I'm very respectful because it's like, hey, I realize that you're busy as heck and your time is super valuable. And like, if I genuinely want to work with them, like I'm going to approach them as my authentic self, not as like, I don't know. Like it's to me, again, it's in service of the art. Like if someone with 30 followers sends me a demo that I think is phenomenal, we're going to work together on it. If someone with 500,000 followers sends me a demo that I think is trash, I'm not going to work on it.
Amen to that. I'm the same way. I am the exact same way. There was an artist who has quite a following who DM'd me one day and they said, hey, I love your music. I want to work with you. And I was like, because their style didn't fit mine. Didn't fit mine at all. Totally. And I was not a fan of their music. And I just, I charge. I mean, look, I'll do anything for some money, all right?
Sure.
I'll do anything for the right price. You know what I'm saying?
There's the art, but then there's also the work, right? So it's like, I mean, to me, I believe that artists deserve to be paid. Period.
Oh yeah.
But if it's something that is totally something reasonable to note. If it's a work for hire thing, if my heart isn't in it, if it's something like for like a commercial or something, and like they just need X, Y, and Z, like I'll deliver.
Bite the bullet.
I'll bite the bullet. Totally.
Yeah, you're paying me $25,000. My heart's gonna be in it.
You betcha. Here's my heart. Here it is in your hands. Like you get
it. Well, look, a lot of people who want to social climb, who just collab for clout.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily blame them as much as I blame the system, right?
Yeah,
because the system compels people to do that. Because let's be honest, I mean, this industry is all about who you know. It's all about who your friends are.
Right.
And there have been a lot of places, a lot of people in especially in the independent scene, believe it or not, because the past 10 years or so, and this is something that's very different from when I started seriously pursuing music like 15 years ago. I've been producing since 2000, but like I seriously started seriously did it for 15 years ago. And one of the things that really has changed since then is that the independent music scene has become more elitist and the major music scene has become less elitist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so if you look at somebody like Dr. Luke, love him or hate him, right? He's going to just pluck Doja Cat out of nowhere. Doja Cat had no following, nothing. He just happened to stumble upon her on SoundCloud and he just liked her music and signed her. If this was some indie, producer out of LA or somebody like that, they would have more hesitancy in doing that. They would be like, well, what kind of following does this person have? Who are they friends with? And I mean, that sort of thing is happening now. So I don't really, and it's not really anybody's fault. It's just that the industry is just based now on numbers. It's based on like how many followers you have on TikTok, how many followers you have on Instagram, how many streams you get, just all sorts of metrics. And it wasn't like that before. And so now it's forced people to social climb. It's like, well, if I can, get this person to feature on my song, even if I don't like their music, even if I don't know their music, then, that's going to get me the streams that I need to be able to go to a label and say, here, look at my profile, look at how many monthly listeners I have on Spotify.
I mean, what I would say though, is it wasn't like that before, like in terms of the social climbing, but it was far more difficult to get your music heard because there wasn't the outlets. It's like, and to me, like nothing is free, right? Social media, SoundCloud, none of it, it's not free. You're paying with your attention and your time. And so, that's the biggest thing is it's, we see a trade-off, right? Of like accessibility into the industry versus, now seeing these social climbing and, inauthenticity and, it's more difficult to see an intention through a screen versus a meeting when you sit down in a boardroom and,
I know. It's such a catch-22, like we mentioned, because on one hand, Spotify and streaming and being able to just put your music up without having to go through a publisher, it really has opened the door for a lot of people.
Amazing.
At the same time, it's kind of like now the independent music scene has become a lot more like the major music scene because people who are independent are getting major league success. People are not having to sign with Sony or Universal or Warner in order to get millions of streams. So what's happened is that you're always going to have the club, people who are in the elite class of musicians who are successful. But at the same time, it's like you don't have to get signed to be in that club anymore. Have you thought about getting management?
I've thought about it and I've had talks with some people. At this time, I'm handling everything myself okay. I think I'll know when I need that. And I am also kind of, it's like, I'm not looking for it, but if it came into my life, like, that would be
so
neat.
It's kind of like if the right person came along, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it would be the right person. And also it would just need to be the right time. Cause as of right now, it's like, I am handling everything okay. But I do see a future where that won't be the case and that I'll need to have a team.
I'm sure that you've gotten a lot of offers because, I mean, you're pretty visible now. You were on Jubilee, Song Lab, which I thought was so cool. I loved that. If you guys are not familiar, just go on YouTube and type, Dear Evergreen Song Lab, and it'll come up. It's a blast. So yeah, you definitely have a lot of visibility. So I have a question. What made you go vegan?
Yeah, great question. I was vegetarian ever since I was 17, and then it was almost 2 years ago. It was October. At the top of the month, I was feeling pretty unhappy. I was like, there's so many things in my life that are not serving me, and I just don't totally know what they are. So I'm going to get rid of everything. So I got rid of caffeine, animal products, most sugar, alcohol, weed, boys, like any vice that I could possibly have. I said no more. And I did that for a month. I just kept everything far away. And I wound up, I was sober for 6 months after that because I just felt like I didn't really need that in my life. And then animal products was the one thing that stuck through that experience. So because I just found that it was so easy to do. And I don't know, it's been kind of like, since then, there's been a plethora of things. Like I am a firm believer in, just being aware of what you're eating. So like a vegan diet is not for everyone. Like it works for me. It works.
I don't have the willpower for it. That's the thing. Like I just get hungry too much when I'm doing it.
Totally. And that's
I'm eating fish now. Like I did it for a little while, but I've included fish. So I'm a pescatarian now. I'm doing that. So I eat salmon and stuff like that. That's working for me.
And that's amazing. Like that's the thing is, to me, it's just about being aware of what you're putting in your body and being intuitive about it. So, that's, just, I like being vegan because it gives me the opportunity to actually like look at my food, read the label, like look at it, and think about, because that's the only thing that's coming into my body. And like, if I am what I eat, like I would like that to be the best. Like that's one of the few things in my life that I can really control. And like, that like gives me that opportunity to I don't know, feel good about that and like nourish myself to the best that I can. You should eat some you should try out some vegan burritos because I know you like burritos. You could try some vegan burritos for sure.
out.
I do often.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
some good eating, man.
Oh yeah.
So any plans on like live shows because things are opening up again? And are you planning on doing nationwide or just local for now?
Yeah, so at this point I have a couple of show offers. I can't really talk about them just yet. That couple that are actually outside of California, which is neat.
Oh nice.
Yeah, and then the plan is next year the album and then doing a tour of that. So very nice. Yeah, and that's looking at nationwide. So, yeah.
Dear Evergreen, this has been amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming here and talking with me. Your future looks very bright.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Really, really appreciate you having this space and for the lovely conversation.
All right, y'all, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Studio Chatter. I will see you guys next week for another episode.